welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're doing very well. Of course, I have a new update for you because we now have a new video from Trisha Paytas. Now, there is so much to get to with this fight that's happening between Ethan and Trisha, and I am trying to keep my ass on top of it for you, so please subscribe if you haven't. But regardless of that, Trisha posted this new video and I rushed to get ready, I rushed to do everything, and the reason it took me a long time to do it, I mean, I'm on it, I'm literally like, again, one of the first to cover this, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it took me like 2 hours to get ready for this video because I have not left my bed since getting vaccinated yesterday. I don't know why I whispered that, like who's around? And I got the one that sounds like Madonna, the Madonna vaccine, and I have had horrible side effects. So, I mean, please bear with me in this video. And I will be holding my iPad with this one because they did it in this arm, which I was quite annoyed with because this one, I can't even. With this one, I have my Madonna or my Mariah Carey tattoo, and I thought it would have been funny if they did the vaccine right into Mariah Carey's pussy, but because it's literally a Mariah Carey body. But anyway, they didn't. So, with this new Trisha Paytas video, I'm so sorry for the intro of this video, it says, trigger warning, SA monetization is off for this one, and then serious topics in brackets. It is a 28-minute long video, and again, I have been an absolute darling, and I have watched it for you, and I have condensed it for you. So, I have one timestamp that we're going to get to near the end of the video, and everything else I have summarized for you. This one, again, is more juicy than any of the other ones we've gotten from Trisha because Trisha is now saying that they are not sorry to Ethan, they are not sorry for how this situation panned out, and it is now turned into a narrative from Trisha, which, okay, if we're hearing them out, we can, you know, give our opinions near the end, that Ethan always was provoking Trisha, and Ethan was always going out of his way to trigger Trisha, and Trisha is now saying that this was never okay, and people didn't respond well to this article, or sorry, this video, because it has more dislikes than likes, like all of these Trisha videos, and people are really annoyed that Trisha is now pushing this narrative that, you know, Ethan has constantly been just trying to trigger Trisha, because people are like, why haven't you spoken about it before? But you can have your own opinion. So the video starts off and Trisha's saying, it's yes, this video is about frenemies and Ethan and like size, and we're like, bitch, another? Oh yeah, of course it's about frenemies, like you don't need to introduce us to it. Then it goes on to say that no matter what they say, people will say that they're manipulative about Trisha and they're accepting of that. Then they go on to say, Trisha says that they put up with Ethan triggering them every single day and pushing them, and uses the example of Trisha walking out on Frenemies and using it as the thumbnail, which happened I think twice, where there was an explosive fight on Frenemies. Now we have the third installment of that fight, and Trisha walks out and they use the title like Trisha Paytas or walks out, they have a big fight and Trisha's, you know, in the thumbnail looking angry. And I understand Trisha's point whenever they say that Ethan, you know, and Frenemies use those moments by Trisha, moments of weakness or whatever, moments of anger or, you know, of being triggered, for clicks on the thumbnail. But realistically speaking, if there's a 2-hour long podcast and you're talking about little topics here and there, and then at the end of the podcast for 30 minutes, you and Ethan are fighting and then you walk out, of course the thumbnail and title is going to be that. Like, why would they title the thumbnail and the title of this podcast what James Charles did, if it's a podcast that has Trisha Paytas and Ethan having an explosive fight and Trisha storms out? That is the title. That's like smart business. That's actually just normal YouTube talk. Trisha knows that. Trisha does clickbait all the time. Then it goes on to say the following. They said that they just need to accept this, that Ethan has constantly been triggering them, and they go in the video saying they, you know, haven't accepted or allowed Ethan to do this in the past, and they're not going to allow it to happen in the future. Basically, that conversations, you know, were always shut down in Frenemies, and Ethan always allowed them to happen, and they always happen behind the scenes, whether it had to do with Trisha's past life, Trisha's future, present, things that Trisha's been involved with. They said that they were always brought up in Frenemies, and Trisha always shut them down, which I don't necessarily think is ever true in this situation. And they say that moving forward, they need to learn to never allow people to use those situations that Trisha's been through against them, which I understand, but we're aware that they have been, and Trisha has engaged in those conversations and sometimes started them. Okay. Then it goes on to say that Trisha says that they allowed themselves to be triggered by Ethan, And it's not Ethan walking on eggshells whenever it's Ethan not respecting Trisha's boundaries ever by sharing DMs and texts from them from the first episode, which was the full situation, the first big fight when Ethan wanted Trisha to share their text with Moses, which exposed a very necessarily not good relationship and a lot of drama behind the scenes between them two and just really icky, disgusting stuff. So Trisha is using that against Ethan by saying that, you know, Ethan never respected them from the start by sharing DMs and texts, which is ironic because now Trisha's main argument about Ethan is showing texts and DMs and all like this against him. So it's kind of came full circle. So it's just whatever you take from that. Me, I think it's a bit hypocritical. I think it would be a great argument if Trisha didn't go down the route of sharing all of these WhatsApp texts and conversations with Ethan, because then it would stand out that Ethan made Trisha do it. But then again, Trisha did agree to do it on the podcast and show them. No one really forced them to. But regardless, if we're going along with it, it would make Trisha's argument seem a lot more well thought out if Trisha didn't do that exact same thing against Ethan, in my opinion. Trisha then says that they have to say no, 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 no to Ethan too much. Trisha says how Ethan expressed how Tourette's and Jewish jokes made him uncomfortable, which I think we could all see and all predict. And they say they didn't know it was bad to say that Jewish people were cheap and jokes like that. I think it's pretty much a given that that's a racist stereotype, but also a lot of people are calling out that Trisha has been exposed for making the Jewish people are cheap joke before on a podcast. We watched it in my previous video and they got called out by it, by Jordan, by saying you cannot say that. So it seems like Trisha said it like years ago and then said it a year ago to Ethan and is now saying that they didn't know that it was a bad joke to make, even though that first person told them that it wasn't a good joke to make. So that's not really a good argument in my opinion. Trisha said the show went back and forth with banter and it was hard to tell what was banter and what was just triggering them. And I completely understand this topic about triggering and I think it's a great conversation to have. But in the context of frenemies, a lot of things were brought up by Trisha and then Ethan would be like, what? And then Trisha would be like, oh no, I don't want to talk about it. And then Ethan would be like, what? Because Trisha would say something shocking. I watched Frenemies, I don't know if you did. If you watched this, maybe you did. But there were a lot of times where Trisha would just randomly say something shocking, whether it had to do with the storyline or not. And then Ethan would be like, wait, get back to that. And Trisha would be like, oh no, I didn't want to talk about it. If you're going to bring up a shocking statement, because you're on a podcast and a podcast setting, of course Ethan is going to push for what you initially said, but more of it. I think that makes sense. I don't necessarily know if that's triggering whenever Trisha was the first one to bring it up. But in the conversation of Ethan bringing things up to Trisha, that is a trigger whenever you're going out of your way to do it. But I don't necessarily think the argument works whenever Trisha will say something so shocking and Ethan will continue asking about it because it's being presented and he just wants the rest of it. This is him eating it up. Okay. Then it continues. Ethan bringing up Trisha's prostitution triggered them, and Ethan bringing up SA that Trisha's been through has also triggered them, and it just got too far, which obviously is understandable. Trisha then goes on to say that the Disney trip, which was vlogged, we've all seen it, it was the first Frenemies vlog, it was actually very fun to watch. Trisha said that that trip was not fun, it was Trisha's birthday trip, and it was actually awful because Ethan was continuously talking to Trisha's mum about Trisha being SA'd. And then Trisha goes on to say that they get power in talking about SA, but not others taking it from them and talking about it on their behalf. Then Trisha goes on to say, continuing on that conversation, how them and their mother had a strain on their relationship when they were younger, but they both fast forwarded it. You know, they didn't want to talk about that trauma or that patch in their life, which is normal. That is something that, you know, sometimes relationships go through. So I completely agree with Trisha here and I'm hearing them out. And Ethan continuously bringing it up to Trisha is not good and not comfortable for them whatsoever. And Trisha says how they should have told Ethan to not talk about it in that moment. And again, what a lot of the comments are saying is, Trisha, you know, it's all well and good you telling us now that you didn't want Ethan talking about this or Ethan shouldn't have talked about it. But then you're telling us that you allowed it to happen or you didn't shut him down or you engaged in the conversation. And, you know, Ethan can't mind read, so he can't know what you're thinking if you're not going to say it to him. I completely get both sides of that argument. Honestly, I really do. Okay, then it goes on. Trisha said how having to talk about Robin Williams, if you watch the Frenemies, it was basically Trisha and Robin Williams had a sexual encounter or something like that, triggered them and it was too far, and they admit that they brought it up though, like, again, one of those casual comments, and they shouldn't have continued to talk even though they did. And I don't know what to do with that whenever Trisha's like, you know, Ethan shouldn't have brought this up, Ethan shouldn't have talked about this, I shouldn't have started the conversation and I shouldn't have continued it. It's like, I don't know how to punish Ethan whenever Trisha brings up a shocking comment, continues to talk about it when Ethan asks, and we've seen the clip. Like, I don't know how we're supposed to act with Ethan whenever Ethan was continuing the conversation that Trisha brought up, but now Trisha's saying Ethan should never have had that conversation or continued it, but Trisha was the one who started it, and then continued it. I don't know, I'm a bit confused on the narrative of this one. Then Trisha goes on to say that Ethan, in that vlog, on the bus tour vlog that they did for Frenemies, the Hollywood tour, they went around all the Hollywood spaces, seeing old celebrity houses and, you know, famous places, whatever, said that Ethan harassing people on the street during the vlog for Frenemies was just too far, and Trisha looked at him completely different after they did that vlog, and in a completely different light, and that they just knew that there was something wrong, and how Ethan shouldn't have brought up, and how Ethan should have brought up to Trisha that he was upset with Trisha in the same way that Trisha should have brought it up to him. That sounds confusing, so imagine how I struggled to read that. This is kind of the main take I'm getting from this video. Trisha's saying that they should have brought things up to Ethan, and Ethan should have brought things up to Trisha, and that Ethan wasn't respecting them, but also they weren't respecting Ethan. And it's like, I don't know whose side we're supposed to take whenever Trisha's presenting an argument against Ethan to us, but then is saying to us, you know, I started it, or I included myself in it, whatever, but you know, he went along with it. It's a bit like, he say, she say, you know, for me, that it's just so back and forth, and it's hard to, like, whenever Ethan's not speaking on this, but, like, it's very easy to take Ethan's side when Trisha's like, Ethan talked about this, it was not good, yes, I started it, I started the conversation, I continued the conversation, but he should not have talked about it. I don't know what to, like, say to them in that situation. You know what I mean? Like, what are, I don't know. Okay, but anyway, continuing on, it goes on to say that Trisha could never go back to Frenemies because Ethan has, you know, never fessed up to the things that upset him that Trisha did. And Trisha said that, again, they don't know what's banter and what's not. Which is interesting to me because at the start of this video, Trisha talks about how Ethan doesn't know what's banter and what's joking with Trisha, but now Trisha's saying that they don't know what that is with Ethan, and Ethan doesn't know what it is with Trisha. So it seems like this back and forth to defend themselves, which I completely understand Trisha's going to do because of the dislikes and the hate and whatever like that. But whenever you're presenting an argument against Ethan, make sure it doesn't open for an argument against you. That's literally what I'm taking from this. It's just that Trisha can't do Frenemies because Ethan never told Trisha what upset them. But then I'm sure Ethan wouldn't do Frenemies because Trisha never told him what upset them, that Trisha's telling us now in this video. Like, what are we supposed to do? We're literally the middle person here, the third person, and like, we're so confused. How is Trisha, like, meant to not be confused? How is Ethan not meant to be confused? How is literally everyone involved not meant to be confused? This is... Anyway, continuing on, it says that Ethan has made Trisha's issues out there by, you know, the conversation of what happened between Trisha and Moses in a bad way, you know, Trisha being toxic, and Trisha said that Ethan put all this out there and now people can use it against them, which I completely agree, but I think whenever the things are that extreme that we've seen, people are going to use that against you. So I mean, that argument I agree with Trisha, but there's no way around it. If you've done bad things, people are going to use them against you, whether Ethan brought it up or not. Trisha says that they don't want to be sexualized ever, or, you know, be like, what's the word, like, where it's like feminized or something like that, or that's a feminist, like, you know, where you're not being like just sexualized as a woman. And if they are feminine, it's just their show side, their performance side. And they're fed up with Ethan sexualizing them and sexualizing their products. And Ethan was saying a comment about Trisha's skincare line or something like that, which has been so overshadowed in all of this drama. Or at least I don't think they anticipated that. And Trisha is saying how uncomfortable it makes them that Ethan was sexualizing the release of that, even though Trisha in all the commercials was completely dressed up, covering everything, and they just don't like how Ethan does that to them, which I didn't take any notice of between their relationship, but maybe I'll look further into. I don't know, I maybe just wasn't chinned in for it, so I apologize, I guess. Trisha says that they get a sense of relief now that Frenemies is over, which is interesting because a few days ago we were told how they, you know, were sad that it was over. Trisha is not sorry to Ethan and talks about how Ethan shut down their ideas all the time and how the comments are telling them to apologize, but they're just not sorry. And here's the first and only timestamp I'm going to show you. And it's interesting because Trisha uses the example that they were talking about Fashion Nova and that Ethan shut down them talking about Fashion Nova because it was fast fashion. no, Ethan was shutting down the conversation of fast fashion and Fashion Nova because of child labor, Trisha. But let's just hear what they have to say with this timestamp, then we'll continue on with the notes. Okay, here we go. It is 15:05. Okay, let's hear what they have to say.
I wasn't comfortable with,
okay, sorry.
For me, it's talking about this stuff now, you know? It's like, it's over, and I feel the sense of relief.
Which is a difference from a couple days ago.
It's horrible to keep seeing on people on Instagram right now. Say sorry to Ethan. Say sorry
Which
to
are
Ethan.
the
It's like,
comments?
I'm not sorry.
Ooh.
He shut down my ideas so many times for so many things.
When? Come on, tell us.
Like Fashion Nova, you know, not sponsored, but we were talking about it one episode, and he was just like, I'm against this and fashion. For me, like,
that is such a bad example to use, because their argument is Ethan shut down them talking about Fashion Nova. Yes, because Ethan is so against child labor. Fast fashion is child labor, and like the argument that Ethan was shutting that down makes Trisha look so bad right now, especially when Trisha was complaining about not making enough money or whatever like that, and the conversation of money. Yikes! Oh, no. Trisha, don't make that argument. Don't. We do not want to go down this route. We do not want to go down the route of fast fashion child labor as an argument defending yourself that someone else, your friend at the time, didn't want to defend it.
Liked Fashion Nova because, like, it was affordable, it was stuff I could afford, and it was also in my size, and he was just so aggressive about that.
This is very weird that Trisha's talking about how they like Fashion Nova because it's something they can afford. Whenever we were having a conversation a few days ago that Trisha was annoyed that they're making hundreds of dollars, but not hundreds of dollars. I can't even pronounce it! This is why I'll never see this number, so I can't even pronounce. My body's like, good luck. Hundreds of thousands of dollars is what Trisha wanted to be making, but wasn't because of all the highlights and all like this. So now Trisha's making the argument about Fashion fucking Nova, which no one cares about, unless they want to give me a sponsorship. Kidding. And it's like, it's stuff that I can afford. You bought a $1 million house, and you said on Frenemies you want to buy another house. We are not the same.
I think at the time, like, I don't know, I don't think I had a sponsorship with them, but it's like, you know, just like shooting down like the aerial gymnastics, which he compared to in his videos, like, oh, sure, I want to go to the moon, but it's not. It's like, so, you know what I mean? Like, it was constant, this anti-anxiety notebook thing, which I have so many of these workbooks that I work through.
Okay.
And I was like, we should create one because, you know, he talks about his anxiety and depression.
I thought it was a good idea too, Trisha.
Borderline and my schizo. Yeah, and I was like, we should write one and shot that down. You know, so I'm not sorry, like, that I said your segment sucked. Like,
okay, so that is the first and only timestamp because I don't want you to have to watch any more than that. Okay, so here are some final quotes. Trisha says that they never want to look like the crazy one. Here is a quote from Trisha. I take accountability, but people are blazing over the serious issues here in regards to Ethan. There has been some sabotage of the show, implying that this was a setup on their behalf. Against them, I mean. And Trisha says that there is a double standard here because Ethan has a calmer attitude. None of it felt right, and I'm not trying, this is the final quote, I'm never or not trying to spread a bad narrative against Ethan, even though the last video we watched, Trisha was like, Ethan's a fucking, and a piece of shit, there's supposed to be censors. Where Trisha was doing all that, and I mean, whether Trisha admits it or not, you are painting Ethan in a bad light, and his family in a bad light, and this is against him, so that is putting something against him and a bad narrative. I don't know why it's so hard to admit that. It feels like the easiest thing here to admit. Regardless, I want to know what your opinion is. We can talk about this below. Whew! I love you. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed if you haven't, because I sat through another one of these videos. I love you, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye. Mwah! Peace out. Check my shirt. Oh, I was supposed to wear a necklace with it. Damn it. You live and you learn. Bye.